Welcome to the almost abstract outdoor news. This is the We Get Outdoors podcast. My name is Rob Yates and I am one of your hosts today. Today I am joined by my able assistant, my Debbie McGee, my co-founder, my outdoor adventure companion, the person who I went and got chased with rhinos by, but that's a story by a different day, Mr. Mark Hopkins. In today's news, we're going to talk about how you can have a pet bear, what it means to be absolutely drunk in charge of a kayak. What else we get to? Oh, what you can do in your backyard, the great picture of the week. What else? And how the Bible of the outdoors and adventure travel may well be doomed. Now, at the start of this weekly news, I promised that as I normally hog the mic, I promised to hand it over to Mark for some weird and unknown reason. Mr. Hopkins.
First of all, I'm in shock that you've actually handed the mic over. But anyway, let's quickly talk before you take it back again.
What?
I have received a number of emails this week following our last episode of the Almost Abstract Weekly News. So I've read them. So thank you to David, Alexa, Oliver, Lydia, Richard, John, and I think Frank, who all asked me the same question, which was, has Rob recovered? And I sort of thought about it. I responded to one person and I said, what do you mean has Rob recovered? And they said, well, in last week's episode, Rob had to disappear for a bit and he didn't really articulate or tell us what he was going. So we assumed that he had to run to the toilet with diarrhea. So I just wanted to confirm that Rob is healthy, that his leaving the mic halfway through a podcast was nothing to do with his bowel movements. But I just wanted to touch base and ask you, Rob, are you okay?
I am magnificent. Is anybody curious about what I ran off to go and get that was of significant importance to my world?
I think what we should do is anyone should also say to us, send us an email to wegetoutdoorstribe@gmail.com. And also we can then get next week, share the funniest response as well.
Yes, if you can guess what it is, I tell you what, in the comments below, I'll give a clue to this. Go and see if you can guess in the comments what it is that I ran off to go and receive, and I'll say it was a parcel of something. Now, the only person who cannot comment on this, because he knows exactly what it is, A is you, Mark, and B is David Poole, who's also watching this, who we spoke about earlier. So in the comments below, guess what was in the parcel I dashed off to receive, and I will share that with you next week. Michelle is here. Hey, Michelle, how are you? Michelle says, something about Michelle drinks good wine at the start of the night, Mark.
Oh, there we go. It's good to know. So
some of your listeners won't understand. So let's have a little think. Let's have a start of this. Mark, have you ever fancied having a pet bear?
Well, you and I have talked on numerous occasions about kayaking the Yukon River.
We're going next year, by the way, as long as this flipping virus thing's gone. July next year.
What's the one thing that I've always said I wanted to take with me when we did that adventure?
Gun.
Why did I want to take a gun?
Bears.
So the thought of doing the Yukon River without a gun is something that I will man up and do. So the answer to your question, have I ever thought about having a bear as a pet? No, but I'm pretty sure we found somebody who has called him. And we talked about Yogi Bear next week, so we need to come up with another bear. What's another good bear's name?
Well, Boo Boo, of course.
Nah, that was not a Boo Boo bear. That was a freaking monster bear.
So we found, and had shared with us, a video of a guy in Canada fishing. And he sat there on his fishing seat with his rod in the water, and he's looking out. What you eventually see, he's looking out across the river at a bunch of bears who are plucking salmon or some form of fish out of the river.
Bears are plucking. Did you say plucking?
You mother plucker. Plucking with their fingers.
Sorry, just stop for 2 seconds. I never knew that bears pluck salmon from a river. They pluck.
These ones do. They're cunning. So Anyway, so the guy sat there fishing in the river. The bears are all...
They're plucking. They're not fishing. They are plucking.
No, the man's fishing. The bears are plucking. So the other bears are further up the river, plucking fish out of the river. And suddenly the guy looks left. And to his left is the world's largest brown bear that comes up to him, that towers above the top of him, and then sits down next to him as he continues to like brown trouser himself and film this on what I can only presume is a GoPro at the same time.
And literally this bear is probably a meter. So what you see in the videos, you see an empty camp chair and the bear is probably 30 centimeters sat next door to this camp chair. And do you know what?
Mark, that's a foot, by the way.
A foot. And the thing I find amazing is this guy is literally like it's a golden retriever that sat down next to him. He just sits there quite chilled. Literally, the bear then blooming yawns. And literally, you just see teeth. And the guy still is there, he's quite chilled. He's like, the only time he starts to make a sound, and this is the person, not the bear, is when the bear winks at him. Did you see that little bear wink?
No.
Oh, look closely. The bear turns, walks towards him, gives him a little wink and said, like, does that old fooled you? He does that mock charge and the guy literally craps himself.
Says no bear.
And then tries to be really proud and brave and stuff. Makes some little squeaky, stop it, please, stop it. And then the bear goes away.
And the bear goes away. That's definitely a brown trouser moment. I guess you don't have any choice if a bear comes up behind you and comes and sits next to you. Probably running will get you in as much crap as staying still. I want to tell you a story, Mark. Is that all right?
Go for it.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. Many of you may well know that I used to be a reasonable whitewater kayaker. If you go and listen to my podcast episode about that, if you want to. And... so I used to be a reasonable whitewater kayaker. And quite a few years ago, I did a lot of kayaking in Uganda on the White Nile, which is one of the largest whitewater rivers on planet Earth. And at about 1 o'clock in the morning, after a little shindig and a couple of sherbets, I decided it would be a great idea to go and kayak the first 2 big rapids on the White Nile. Now, I did this, got back to the bar, celebrated and carry on partying. What didn't happen to me, Mark, is what happened to the guy you found.
Yeah. So this is I was trying to work out where you're going there. It's quite clever. I'm quite impressed with that.
It's called a link.
I'm learning. I'm a bit naive about certain things, especially about kayaking and certain rules, especially in North America. So there was this gentleman, a 38-year-old gentleman, who was kayaking. And he was about 300 meters offshore. And he basically, I think, gave up. He saw the shoreline and he was like, I really can't be asked to paddle back to the shoreline. So he called for help. And the rescuers came, they picked him up, took him, and he got arrested. And he got arrested not for being too lazy and calling out. Guess what he got arrested for?
No idea. Well,
he got arrested for being drunk in charge of a kayak. Or actually, it was called impaired. I never knew that being drunk in charge of a kayak is impaired. And in this state law, it carries the same level of punishment as drink driving.
Does he lose his license?
He lost his kayak license. I'm just imagine though, just how many people would be in so much trouble for being drunk in charge of something like skiing. How many people ski sober? No one skis sober. You go up there, maybe, okay, the morning you might ski a little bit, but you're probably hungover from the night before. You then have a few drinks on the mountain and then you're pissed for the rest of the afternoon skiing.
Yes.
It's just, so yeah, impaired. So being drunk in charge of a kayak, he's back. Being drunk in charge of a kayak is exactly the same as being drunk in charge of a motorized vehicle. There you go. That's a fact for the day.
Fantastic. And I guess in every state in the US, the law changes, as does the office who's enforcing the laws. So, hey, there we go. Did you know, Mark, that last weekend I took my daughter on an expedition to go camping. It was a very, very, very far destination away. In fact, some of you might have seen the post on the We Get Outdoors tribe, actually. My daughter, my wife, and I went camping in the back garden. We had adventures. We did all sorts of things. But I think there's some very bored outdoor guides out there who are taking backyard adventuring to another level. I haven't seen much of this, so Mark, I'm going to ask you, what did you see about that?
Oh, it's just a very funny thing. It's gone viral of this. I think, so it's an American news channel picked it up, of this Australian outdoor guide who basically takes you on an adventure around his back garden. And he does he gets his bike, he does the funniest thing, but literally you can see this poor guy. You know those guides who just love talking, and he's obviously on solo lockdown and he's got no one to talk to. So he's literally imagining himself doing a guide of, I don't know, to be honest, I have no idea what you do a guide of in Australia anyway. It's just bloody barren land. But anyway, that's another conversation. So he's basically reliving his barren land adventure trip around his back garden with I think there's a clothesline that gets into his story. There is, you name it, he comes up with the most crazy stuff. It's brilliant. So we'll put the link into the description, and you can all watch this poor guy he probably feels a little bit like I do on day 32 of lockdown, but I've got someone else to talk to.
It's just whether she's willing to listen. Sorry, that was too
stories to tell about that.
That's too close to the truth. Move on.
She's probably listening.
She's got a glass to the wall.
Guess where I'm staying to sleeping tonight?
Yeah, in your office. There we go. So every time I've been... Go on.
There you go.
Every time I've been somewhere and traveled around the world, and I've led trips and expeditions in every continent apart from Antarctica. I've kind of abused my British passport to its not quite its maximum, but I've pretty heavily hammered it.
This is sad, by the way. I don't like this bit. This is, you know, when we were planning and thinking about what we were going to talk about, this is the one topic of conversation that I'm upset. You know, I'm going to have a drink for that.
Cheers. What's the like the crematorium like march they have when they're taking like a death march?
I've just got some weird songs like
So
I've got Here Comes the Bride in my head.
So unfortunately, hang on. Dum dum da, dum dum da, dum dum dum. Unfortunately, the Lonely Planet guides may well be coming to an end. Recent news in the Telegraph has divulged that with people traveling less and with information being so easily available via Google, the need for people, or the desire for people to want to buy essentially the adventure travel guide to a country, like stay in this hostel, go there, do this, here's a phone number, here's an email address. You can have it on your Kindle, you can have it on paperback, whatever it is you want, may no longer be, because we just can't travel. Now, it blows my mind in some respects that like 1995, I think it was, or was it 1982, sorry, that the Lonely Planet started. And it blows my mind that it may well be coming to an end. A business of that size and scale that's multilingual. And now I'm actually going to have to think of an intelligent question to ask in Google to get a reasonable answer, as opposed to just picking up a book and looking at the contents page and going, oh, that seems like a good idea. Mark, how many Lonely Planet guys do you have in your house? You must have flipping loads.
Oh, I can't, blah, blah, blah. I probably have or had or owned in my life 20 to 30 easily. That's the cool thing about Lonely Planets. One is you trade them and you give them away to people all the time. So like you use it and then you go, actually, a friend of yours is going to go to New Zealand. So you give them your New Zealand one and it comes back. And the cool thing I love about Lonely Planets is what everybody does in Lonely Planets is they scribble notes in their Lonely Planet.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They meet Fred and Fred does this and here's his phone number. And if you ever go there, mention, I think it's and like we travel quite a lot, and I freaking hate Airbnb and TripAdvisor and all that. Because you know what you do? You spend more bloody time searching and questioning your own judgment and other people. It's like, this is the thing I find so stupid about these sites. Like, there's George from some random place who you've never ever heard of, who you go through, and there's 25 really good reviews about something, and then George pops up. And George makes one slightly negative comment. And what do? That's it. I'm not going there. I'm not staying it. George has told me that this place is no good at all. And that's the thing I just don't like. I like to find out. I like to go somewhere and go, yeah, this is shit. And then I can say it's shit, and then we're all good to go. Lonely Planet, long live the Lonely Planet.
Long live the Lonely Planet, although unfortunately their days might be numbered.
It's only Melbourne and London offices, though.
They could become a collector's item, though, Mark.
Ooh,
the values.
Get mine back from everyone else.
Yeah, supply and demand. The value could be amazing.
I'm sure you've got one of mine, and you've got my tent.
I've got your tent. I don't think I've got a Lonely Planet guide, though. I might have. I don't know. I've got hundreds of the things. I've no idea. So there we have it. That's the sad news for the almost abstract outdoor news this week. Now, this person we're about to speak about next was, or maybe is, listening. I'm just honestly not too sure how many people are. Each week, we like to celebrate and announce and thank and talk about one particular image of the week on the We Get Outdoors tribe. Mark is the judge. His opinions are final. He's completely biased, and you can only influence him with shipping him copious amounts of red wine. If you ship him crap red wine, he'll make decisions against you. If you ship him amazing red wine, well, you never know. Guaranteed. So, Mr. Hopkins, what have you found for this week's Picture of the Week?
So I've gone in support of my co-founder, who mentioned earlier around his amazing weekend, and I had a really cool voice note from Rob's daughter this week, who was just full of excitement around her camping adventure. So I'd like to announce this week's Picture of the Week is from Mr. Barry Hughes. Woo! I loved his picture. So he did a picture of his camping expedition in his garden. But not only that, he took it to a whole new level of Easter bunny onesies. Now that was the bit that took it over the edge of seeing Easter bunny onesies in a garden. So Barry, thank you very much for sharing that. I literally was crying with laughter that you actually, not only you set up a big campsite in your garden, you made, I think it's your partner, your wife and your daughter dress up in Easter bunny onesies and then snapped a photo. Whoever's in that photo is never, ever going to forgive you. So for that reason alone, you get the Pick of the Week award.
In fact, I think I happen to know Barry. I happen to kind of know Barry. We've had very close circles in the water sports world for a very long period of time. And Barry and his wife, Lisa, in the onesie, or in one of the onesies, Lisa Black, I think it's Lisa Black. Barry and his wife, anyway, they go snowboarding usually once a year with my youngest brother and his girlfriend. So my challenge to Barry is, can you get Lisa and your daughter to go snowboarding wearing those bunny outfits for us so we can announce you again on the We Get Outdoors Pick of the Week picture? What do you think, Mark?
I thought you were going to say something different. I thought you were going to say for Barry to get your younger brother in the onesie. I thought that'd be much better.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Yeah, you could do that as well. In fact, actually, maybe you could try and squeeze Ed Yates into your daughter's bunny onesie and then him and go snowboarding together. I might even pay. In fact, if you want a larger bunny costume, I'll pay for it. It's just as long as you promise that Ed wears it and you get video footage. So we're coming towards the end of this week's news. Frankly, we could talk about this stuff forever. We've got a massive list of things, but we try and restrict ourselves to 6 themes. If you've got anything that you would like to be featured in the Almost Abstract Outdoor Weekly News, please email us, wegetoutdoorstribe@gmail.com, and say, here's the content I've found. This is super cool. Bearing in mind, if you're expecting us to talk about anything serious, straightforward, or mainstream in terms of the news, It's not almost and it's not abstract, so we probably won't. So the last thing we're going to talk about is, though, closer to the serious line, and that's how boredom can inspire you to get out on adventures. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I go away somewhere, the first little while I'm away, I'm actually quite frantic. I'm still in work mode. And then after a little while, I get into like chill mode and my brain switches off. And then a little while after that, my brain goes, and all of the best ideas that I ever have seem to come in that moment. Now, Mark knows about this really well, because normally that's when his mobile phone starts vibrating, because what I normally do is send all my great ideas to him in messages, and he is the keeper of my great ideas. So what is it that can come out of boredom? What can come out of being locked inside? Well, in 1942, there was a Jewish lady from Belgium in a German Second World War camp who'd been in there for a while, who occupied her time stuck in a Second World War camp thinking about the adventures she was going to have when she got out. It gave her optimism. It gave her a will to live. And she became one of Felicie Bertine became one of Europe's leading female adventurers in the 40s and 50s after she survived the Jewish Second World War camp. And so I know that we're not in a Jewish Second World War camp in this lockdown period, but we are stuck in our homes, most of us, some of us because we have to be, some of us because we're choosing to be, but we are stuck in there. And I just encourage you to go and start using this time to plan your adventures. If you want to come to the Yukon with Mark and I next year, start planning with us, start talking to us. But why would you want to do that? Hey, what?
But bring a gun.
Yeah. But please, can we have an American with a gun? Or a Canadian with a gun, because Whitehorse is in Canada. Anyway, and then we're going to go and see people like Joe Wood and Crystal up in Alaska afterwards, Mark. We don't know about that bit yet. Anyway, yes, boss. We're going to go and have some fun. We're actually starting a new thing called Challenge Mark for 2021, but more about that to come soon. Anyway, use this time. What have you wanted to do? You know, this isn't going to last forever. We will be able to travel again and move about again freely and easily without people looking at us like we're a flipping criminal because we got in our car and drove to the shop for a can of Coke or something. Like, it will lift. So use this time to go and start working out, how are you going to save money now to go and finance this thing? I don't know. But on the subject of Second World War camps, I believe, Mark, you've got a story centered around that as well.
I do, and I love this story. So this story is about an Italian prisoner of war called Felice Benuzzi. So he was an amateur mountaineer, and he was imprisoned in Kenya, in a POW camp in Kenya. Now, his camp was, I think it's about 1,500 kilometers from the nearest neutral country, Mozambique. So not an easy place to escape from. And his camp was reasonably close. You could see it in the distance to Mount Kenya. This guy was an amateur mountaineer, and he was bored shitless. He literally was going insane, just sitting in the camp. It wasn't too much of a strict POW camp, but it was a boring place to be. So one day he saw Mount Kenya and he thought, I'm going to go and climb that mountain. So he then recruited 2 other people, and on the 24th of January, 1943, they escaped from their POW camp in Kenya and hiked to the base of Mount Kenya, which is all through the Big Five territories. They dodged lions, they dodged everything just to get to the base of Mount Kenya. They had made crampons out of steel stuff that they made in the camp, and they climbed. So they climbed. Unfortunately, the story doesn't have that good a happy ending. It's at 199 meters from the summit. They had to turn around, so they didn't make it to the top. But the funny part of the story is, guess what happened 18 days later?
No idea.
They broke back into the POW camp.
What? Because the mountaineering was so crap, they thought, we'll just go back to the camp, it'll be nicer.
Yeah, they broke out undetected, climbed to the top of, nearly to the top of Mount Kenya, turned around, 18 days, broke back into the POW camp, and no one missed them.
That is genius. That takes The Great Escape to a whole new level.
So there you go. When you're bored, you can not only come up with cool things, you can actually do cool things. But obviously climbing Mount Kenya in lockdown is a little bit of a challenge. But there we go. That was my 1943. And if anyone's interested, there's an amazing book written by Felice Benuzzi called No Picnic on Mount Kenya. So grab that book. It is fascinating.
Superb. Now, normally, Mark, at this point in time in the weekly outdoor news, I would do some plug for the We Get Outdoors tribe, but I'm not going to do it tonight because if you haven't joined the tribe yet, you're a loser. Go join the We Get Outdoors tribe, stick it in Facebook, find it, and you'll find it. And we'll go, yes, we will probably accept you.
So that's not a plug, just so we're clear. That's not a plug.
No, the plug is for everything that I did last week. Now, the link for what I'm about to tell you is in the description below. And I spent probably 25 hours last week of time that I don't really have building for you, any of you who is listening, what I believe to be the highest quality series of outdoor and adventure sports videos, all put into one place where you can go and access it for free. Some stuff that you won't find easily or ever anywhere else is in there. And whether you're into hunting, hiking, kayaking, canoeing, expeditions, bushcraft, survival, sailing, skiing, what do I go? You name it. There is world-class content in there for you. I mean, today I put up 3 episodes of an expedition called Vela about some guys who sailed and surfed. They restored a catamaran and sailed and surfed around the Pacific Ocean for 5 years. There's their story in there. I put up some awesome new episodes from the Sailing Channel, Sailing Magic Carpet. I put some bushcraft stuff in there, and I put a flipping amazing skiing documentary in there about a group of French skiers who did an expedition into the Karakoram mountains in Pakistan and went and skied down slopes of mountains that have never, ever been touched before. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. No matter what it is you're into, go check it out. It's completely free of charge, and the link for you to go to access it is below. Now, a testimony always creates a better picture. Now, Mark is slightly biased, but Mark, after I built the area and with all this content in it, and I sent you the free access and said, go check this out, what do you think? How was the rest of your evening?
Shit.
What? Shit? Why is that?
Because I got nothing done. All I did is watch the blimmin' movies, which was so gripping that I basically got 4 hours sleep that night as well because I couldn't put the bloody laptop down. So it was shit. Thanks to you.
So if you want to have, well, the worst night's sleep ever because the content is so gripping and you can't stop watching, go check it out. It's below. Now, this brings us to the end of the Almost Abstract Weekly News. Mark, do you have any final closing comments, thoughts, ideas, or genius for people?
No, apart from a annoyance thing about lockdown and working out inside, sweating everywhere. It's disgusting. Don't enjoy it.
Yeah, Mark lives in a really, really hot place on the Indian Ocean, by the way. Anyway, so that's it from us. This is the end of this week's weekly news. If you want to add your content to the weekly news, send us an email, drop us a comment. We'd really, really love it. Of course, if you go and subscribe to the podcast, and if you could share the podcast with all of your friends and family who love the outdoors or love crazy Britishmen just ranting about random stuff slightly to do with the outdoors for about 25 to 30 minutes once a week. Or maybe you'd like to be delighted by some celebrity expert guest like Nick Cunliffe, who I'm interviewing him live on the We Get Outdoors Tribe Facebook page on Monday lunchtime-ish, North American time. That's it from me. Have an awesome week further, and I look forward to hanging out with you again very soon.